Yo, mic check, mic check. We live. We is live. What's happening? Back with another rendition of classes in session. And today we will be talking about the Nebateans. Yeah, I was reading this National Geographic, and it came from the National Geographic Dead Sea Scrolls. National Geographic. That was the first installment of the classes in session uh, series that I'm doing here. And I came across something that was very interesting. And it is the Nabateans, right? Because I know in the Bible they talk about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and whatnot, but they never talk about the Nabateans. And there is another group, a third group, really. Hold on, real quick. Let me see if I can find it. See if I can find it. They were called the Essence. The Essence. Where's it at? I know I highlighted it. Mm, mm, the Essence. The Essence. And before we get to the Nabateans, let me just what up, baby? What's up, Kendra? But before we get to the Nabateans, let me just read this quick portion because they never talk about in the Bible the Essence. Um, another religious faction, the Essence, also opposed the Sadducees. This group was repelled when the Hasmonean king decided to usurped the position of high priest. According to the Jewish historian Josephus, the Essenes then formed a monastic community to pursue a ascetic lifestyle based entirely on the Torah, which, as Quran, there is no argument among scholars regarding the Essenic identification of Quran in recent years, but there is little doubt that the inhabitants of the Quarren site were at least partly resembled responsible for hiding the Dead Sea Scrolls in the nearby caves. Now, when they talk about the Quarren, that is the area in which they actually found the Dead Sea Scrolls. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting that there were three main religious factions back in the time of Jesus, but for whatever reason, they don't talk about the Assassins in the Bible. But yeah, there were the Assassins, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. Now, the Pharisees were more in line with. See, we were taught that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were, were adversarial towards Jesus, and that wasn't the case. The Pharisees had more in common ideologically with Jesus than the Sadducees did, you know, and the Assassins had more in common with the Pharisees than they did with the Sadducees. But anyway, let's get to the Nabateans. All right. Now, in the Who Wrote the Scrolls, you know what? I'll just read this whole entire, excuse me, I'll just read this whole entire paragraph. Instead, these scholars, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Let me just get down to the portion. All right, careful analysis of the text has also identified subtle changes in the style of Hebrew or in the Aramaic, Greek, or even Nabatean of other documents. So this people's, the Nabateans, had their own dialect or language and whatnot. So I seen it because they didn't really speak too much here about the Nebateans. They just mentioned them in passing, so that kind of raised my antennas when I read things like that. So you can't just speak about a group real quick and then just just blow by the shit like you didn't say that shit. So I went to Wikipedia, right, and looked up what the Nabateans were. I believe that they were, uh, how you say, Hebrew Israelites, or a faction of the Hebrew Israelites, whatever. But let's go to Wikipedia. The Nabateans, also the Nabateans, okay, hold on, were an ancient Arab people who inhabited northern Arabia and the southern Levant. Their settlement mostly up remotely, uh, prominently the assumed capital city of Rakhmu, present day Petra in Jordan, gave the name Nabati, ancient Greek, to the Arabian borderland that stretched from the Euphrates to the Red Sea. The Nabateans were one of several nomadic Bedouin tribes that roamed the Arabian desert in search of pasture and water for their herds. They emerged as a distinct civilization and political entity between the 4th and 2nd century BCE, with their kingdom centered around a loosely controlled trading network that brought considerable wealth and influence across the ancient world. Described as fiercely independent by contemporary Greco Roman accounts, the Nabateans were annexed into the Roman Empire by Emperor uh, Trajan in 106 CE. The Nabateans' individual culture, easily identified by their characteristic finely potted painted ceramics, was adopted into the larger Greco-Roman culture. So you have a nomadic peoples who were herders throughout the Arabian desert who had heavily influenced the Greco-Roman culture. They later converted to Christianity during the latter Roman era. Jane Taylor describes them as one of the most gifted peoples of the ancient world. They sound blessed to me. Sound blessed to me. Let's continue. Now, I've only read that first paragraph, so and then I said, you know what, I gotta speak about these peoples. Okay, the origin. The Nabateans were one among several nomadic tribes who roamed the Arabian desert, moving with their herds to wherever they could find pasture and water. These nomads became familiar with their area as seasons passed, and they struggled to survive during bad years when seasonal rainfall diminished. Although the Nabateans were initially embedded in Arabic culture, modern scholars reject theories about their having Aramean roots. What does it mean to have Aramean roots? What does Aramean? What does that mean? What does that era mean? Hold on, real quick. All right, Arameans were an ancient Semitic speaking people in the Near East, first recorded in historical sources from the late 12th century BCE. The Aramean homeland was known as the land of Aram, encompassing central regions of modern Syria. Okay, so they were allegedly, the Arameans were allegedly Semitic speaking peoples. Okay, let's go back. Historically, religiously, and linguistic evidence instead identifies them as a northern Arabian tribe. Okay. A hypothesis argues that the Nabateans came from the eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, and Edward Lipinski identified the Nabatu in the Nabateatu mentioned by Tiglath-Pileser III and Sin. I'm not going to try that. With the Nabateans and located them as living to the west of Babylonians' western border in the 7th century BCE, where they were strongly influenced by Babylonian culture. Under the region of Sargon II, the Nebatai are mentioned as having been put by the Assyrian king at the disposal of the governor of Aspia in Babylonia. And later in the middle of the 7th century BCE, their envoys were presented with captives of Sippar by the Babylonian king Shamash Shum Ukin. By the time Ashur Banipal conducted his campaigns against the Arabs, the Nabatu had migrated westward into the Syrian steppe. They had moved to the south of the Wadi Shirhan, the 6th century BCE. Similarities between late Nebatean Arabic dialect and the ones found in Mesopotamia during the Neo-Assyrian period. Hold clear this the fuck up out of here. Made me lose my spot. Okay. And the fact that the Assyrians listed a group with the name of Nabatu as one of the several rebellious Arab tribes in the region. Now, keep in mind, Arab just means mingled, suggests a connection between the two. The Arabic language scholar Hamid al Jalad concludes that evidence suggests that Arabic was part of the linguistic milieu of the Levant and Mesopotamia as early as the Iron Age. As such, the Nabateans, along with other notable Arab tribes in the region, the Tanukids, Banu al Samayada, Banu Amalia, and I'm not gonna try that. This is not my forte. Would have been a part of a milieu that was native to the Levant and Mesopotamia. The Nabateans have been identified with the Nebaioth of the Hebrew Bible, the descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son. Mhm. Let's check that out. Nebaioth, Nebaioth or Nebajuth is mentioned at least 5 times in the Hebrew Bible, according to which he was the firstborn son of Ishmael, and the name appears as the name of one of the wilderness tribes mentioned in the book of Genesis. Mhm. And Nabateans have been identified. Well, how were they identified? Because they both have, okay, I guess. They just say they've been identified. They didn't specify how they were identified, but okay. All right. The suggestion that they came from the Hejaz area is considered by Michael Murray to be more convincing, as they share many deities with ancient peoples there. The NBTW, I don't even know what that means, the root consonant of the tribe's name, okay, is not found in early Semitic languages of Hejaz. Herodotus mentions an Arabic, no, excuse me, an Arabic Arabian king, possibly the Nebatean king, who was an ally of the Persians and gave them a safe passage to Egypt. According to the same source, all people of West Asia were subject to the Persians except the Arabians, who never submitted to the Persian yoke. Hmm. Yeah, they did say these motherfuckers was fierce. I ain't gonna hold you. All right, let's keep scrolling. Unlike the rest of the Arabian tribes, the Nabateans later emerged as vital players in the region. During their times of prosperity, however, They later faded and were forgotten. The brief Babylonian captivity of the Hebrews that began in 586 BCE, excuse me, hold on real quick, opened a minor power vacuum in Judah. Prior to the Judeans' return under the Persian king Cyrus the Great, who reigned 559 through 530 BCE. As Edomites moved into open Judean grazing lands, Nabatean inscriptions began to appear in Edomite territory. The first definitive appearance dates. So hold on, are these Edomites or what are they saying? No, they okay. So what I'm deducing from that passage that I just read was yes, yes, they were Arabian. What I'm deducing from this passage is that when the Hebrews went into Babylonian captivity, the Edomites came in, and then the Nabateans came in and started marking shit up, started marking on the walls and shit, letting them know that hey, we in the building. Okay. The first definitive appearance dates from 312 and 311 BCE when they were attacked at Sela or perhaps at Petra without success by antagonists. Uh, Antigonus the first, official, no, officer, this shit, Anthemius, in the course of the Third War of the Diadochi at the time of Hieronymus of Cardia, this shit is just all over the place with these names. All right, mention the Nabateans in a battle report about 50 BCE. The Greek historian Dirodeus Sileus cited Hieronymus in his report and added the following: just as the Seleucids had tried to subdue them, so the Romans made several attempts to get their hands on that lucrative trade. The Nabateans had already some trace of Aramaic culture when they first appeared in history. So they were, they're saying that they were Arabic, but they're saying that they also had Aramaic culture. And we know that Jesus spoke Aramaic. So, well, the language of the time when Jesus was around was Aramaic. They wrote a letter to Antigonus in Syriac letters. The Aramaic continued as the language of their coins and inscriptions when the tribe grew into a kingdom and profited by the decay of the Salius to extend its borders northward over the more fertile country east of the Jordan River. They occupied Harurin, and in 85 BCE, their king Aretas III became lord of Damascus and Col Syria. Proper names on their inscriptions suggest that they were ethnically Arabs. Now we know Arabs means mingled, okay, who had come under Aramaic influence. Hmm. They say they were Arabs who came. They say ethnically they were they were Arabs who came under Aramaic influence. Okay. All right. Starkey identifies the number two of southern Arabia pre-Caline migration as their ancestors. However, different groups among the Nabateans wrote their names in slightly different ways. Consequently, archaeologists are reluctant to say that they all belong to the same tribe. Hmm. Now, when I was in anthropology class, right, this is how the breakdown was, right? You had families, and then several families formed a band, and then several bands formed a clan, and then several clans formed a tribe. So what they're saying here is that they weren't, not all of the Nabateans were part of the same tribe. I guess you could say it's kind of like Kansas Cityans or people from Missouri. Let's say a group from Missouri, and we just called ourselves Missourians or Missourians or whatever, you know. And you got some white people, some black people, some Mexicans, some Asians, but we're all in this tribe as Missourians. You know what I mean? So I guess it's kind of like that. All right. Are there any one group represented the original Nabateans? So how can y'all definitively say? Well, I guess you could say they were Arab ethnically, because if they weren't all from the same tribe, then technically they would be mingled. They would technically be Arabs, technically. But you might have some how you say descendants of Ishmael, some descendants of Jacob, you know what I mean, some descendants of Abraham, some Midianites in there, some other peoples and whatnot. Interesting. Historians such as Arfan Shahid, Warwack Ball, Robert G. Hoyland, Michael C. A. McDonald, and others believe Nabateans spoke Arabic as their native language. I mean, but they have writing and a bunch of inscriptions with Aramaic, so how could they have spoken Arabic? How can you say that you believe they spoke Arabic, but they have coins and writings that are in Aramaic? That doesn't make any sense. But okay, I guess. All right, John F. Healy states that the Nabateans normally spoke a form of Arabic, while, like the Persians, etc., they use Aramaic for formal purposes and especially for inscriptions. I mean, but how could y'all, the Nabateans and Sabaeans, first people to occupy the Arabia of Felix? Hmm, interesting. Yeah, these Nabateans, they kind of pique my interest. But hold on. Okay, I get it, but how they are okay. John F. Healy states that the Nabateans normally spoke a form of Arabic, but they said they use Aramaic for formal purposes and especially for inscriptions. Okay, but how would you know that? Do you have any writings by them in Arabic? I mean, you weren't alive when they were alive, so you couldn't hear them speak Arabic. So how would you know that they spoke Arabic? You know what I mean? It's like now I can kind of believe that because you got people here in America who normally speak Spanish, but they use English and they write in English when they conduct business and whatnot. Because I guess English is the language of business or the language of commerce worldwide. So I mean, I get it, but still, like they still haven't. He just said that the Nabateans normally spoke a form of Arabic. He just said it so matter of factly, as if with no evidence backing it up. Now they presented evidence of the Nabateans speaking Aramaic, but they didn't present any evidence of them speaking Arabic. So I guess it doesn't matter. All right, the Nabatean kingdom. Petra was rapidly built in the first century BC and developed a population estimated at 20,000. The Nabateans were allies of the first Hasmoneans in their struggles against the Seleucid monarchs. They then became rivals of the Judean dynasty, hmm, and a chief element in the disorders that invented Pompey's intervention in Judea. Now, I would like to see text of these Nabateans being rivals with the Judean dynasties. Because if you go through the Book of Kings, I don't believe that you'll find them in the Book of Kings. You'll find the Midianites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, the Philistines, and whatnot, but I've yet to hear anything about these Nabateans, though. Okay. According to popular historian Paul Johnson, many Nabateans were forcefully converted to Judaism by Hasmonean King Alexander Jannaeus. It was this king who, after putting down a local rebellion, invaded and occupied the Nabatean town of Moab in Galilee and imposed a tribute of an unknown amount. Obadas the first knew that Alexander would attack, so was able to ambush Alexander's forces near Galilee, destroying Judean armies 90 BC. Hmm. So these motherfuckers was funky, huh? They was funky. So they made them, but why would they make them convert though? That's weird. Okay. Excuse me real quick. All right, the Roman militia was not very successful in their campaign against the Nabateans in 62 BCE. Marcus Aemilius Securus accepted a bribe of 300 talents to lift the siege on Petra, partly because of the difficult terrain and the fact that he had ran out of supplies. Hyrcanus II, who was a friend of Aretas, which was the king of the Nabateans, was dispatched by Securonius to the king to buy peace. Okay. And so obtaining peace, King Aretas retained all his possessions, including Damascus, and became a Roman vassal, I mean. So I mean they didn't get destroyed, but they essentially got down with the program, got down with the Romans. Okay. How come I haven't heard about these motherfuckers though? Am I tripping? Like this is the first time I'm hearing about them. Reading this shit in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's the first time I ever heard about them. Okay, in 32 BCE, King Malacois II reigned. Herod the Great, with the support of Cleopatra, started a war against the Nabateans. The war began with Herod plundering Nabatea with a large cavalry force and occupying Dium. After this defeat, the Nabatean forces amassed near Kenneth in Syria, but were attacked and routed. Cleopatra's general, Athenion, sent Kenneth to the aid of the Nabateans. Hold on, wait a minute. Oh, no. Cleopatra supported them with the. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. This kind of confusing. With the support of Cleopatra, started a war against the Nabateans. But it says right here, Cleopatra's general sent aid to the Nabateans, and his force crushed Herod's army. which then fled to Ormiza 1 year later, for its army over. Hold on, let me go down. Let's go down to culture. All right. Hold on, excuse me, real quick. They gonna bore y'all with the history. I might go back to the history because they talking about the Byzantine Empire in here. So these motherfuckers was getting down with the Egyptians, the Byzantine. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go down just a little bit. All right. All right. By the third century, the Nabateans had stopped writing in Aramaic and began writing in Greek instead. And by the fifth century, they had converted to Christianity. The new Arab invaders, who soon pressed forward into their seats, found the remnants of the Nabateans transformed into peasants. Their lands were divided between the new Quatanite Arab tribal kingdoms of the Byzantine vassals, the Ghassanid Arabs, and the Himyarite vassals. The kingdom of Kinda in North Arabia, the city of Petrus was brought to the attention of the Westerners by the Swiss explorer Johann. Okay, so by this time, by the third century, when they got put under Roman rule, these motherfuckers was brought low. Kingdoms rise, kingdoms fall. They rose and they fell, man. Now let's go over culture. Many examples of graffiti and inscriptions, largely of names and greetings. Sounds kind of familiar. Who likes to write names on walls and do graffiti? Hmm. Document the area of Nabatean culture, which extended as far north as the north end of the Dead Sea, and testified to widespread literacy. But except for a few letters, no Nabatean literature has survived. Mm, really? So you mean to tell me no Nabatean literature has survived? These niggas was around for hundreds and hundreds of years, tagging shit all throughout Arabia, from the south of the Dead Sea all the way to the north of the Dead Sea. And you mean to tell me all of their literature is wiped out? There's okay, no Nabatean literature has survived, nor was any noted in antiquity. That's kind of hard to believe. Onomastic analysis has suggested that Nabatean culture may have had multiple influences. Classical references to the Nabateans began with Diodorus Siculus. Okay, they suggest that the Nabateans' trade routes and the origins of their goods were regarded as trade secrets and disguised in tales that should have strained outsiders' credulity, whatever that word is. All right. They would describe them as a strong tribe of some 10,000 warriors, preeminent among the nomads of Arabia, eschewing agriculture, fixed houses, and the use of wine, but adding to pastoral pursuits a profitable trade with the seaport in frankincense and myrrh. Hmm. and spices from Arabia Felix, today's Yemen, as well as a trade with Egypt in bitumen from the Dead Sea. Their arrayed country was their best safeguard. Their arid country was their best safeguard. For the bottle shape of rainwater, which they excavated in rocky or clay-rich soil, were carefully concealed from invaders. The earliest known Arabic cookbook contains recipes for fermented Nebatean water bread. So, okay, if you got an Arabic cookbook for a recipe for fermented Nabatean water bread, wouldn't that be Nabatean literature? Hmm. They yeast leavened bread is made with a high quality wheat flour called samidcha that is finely milled and free of bran. It is baked in a tender. Okay, whatever. Let's go down to religion. Excuse me, real quick. The extent of Nabatean trade resulted in cross cultural influences that reached as far as the Red Sea coast of southern Arabia. The gods worshipped at Petra were notably Dushera and Al Uzza. Dushera was the supreme deity of the Nabatean Arabs and was the official god of the Nebatean kingdom, who enjoyed special royal patronage. His official position is reflected in multiple inscriptions that render him as the God of our Lord, the King. Okay, isn't that literature though? Hmm. The name uh, Shira is from the Arabic Dahu Ashira, which means the one of Shahara. Okay, a mountain range southeast of Petra, also known as Mount Seir. Wait a minute, Mount Seir. Where's Mount Seir at? Let me look this up real quick. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me Mount Seir was in Judea, the southwest Jordan? Hmm. Al Shahara Mountains, shown in red in southwest Jordan. I'm looking at a map right now. This is this is just east of the Jordan. I believe that would be like the Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh. I believe that's their territory, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. But this is clearly in, you know, the Holy Land. It's crazy. Wait a minute. Because if their supreme god, whose name was Dehu Ashira, which simply means the one of Shira, a mountain range southeast of Petra, also known as Mount Seir, and Mount Seir being in Judea, that could be the God of the Bible. They just called him Shira, or the God of Mount Seir. Hmm, interesting. Therefore, from a Nabatean perspective, Dahoshir was probably associated with the heavens. However, one theory which connects Dahashir with the forest gives a different idea of the god. The eagle was one of the symbols of Dahashir. It was widely used in Hegra, also a source of protection for the tombs against thievery. Nabatean's inscriptions from Hegra suggest that Dahashir was linked either with the sun or with Mercury, with which Ruda, another Arabian god, was identified. His throne was frequently mentioned in inscriptions. Certain interpretations of the text consider it as a reference for Dahashir's wife, goddess Harisha. She was probably a solar deity. However, when the Romans annexed the Nebatean kingdom, Dahashir still had an important role despite losing his former royal privilege. The greatest testimony to the status of the god after the fall of the Nebatean kingdom was during the 1000th anniversary of the founding of Rome, where Dashir was celebrated in Bostra by striking coins with his name, Actia Dashir, linking the god with Augustus' victory at Act, Actium, Actium, however you pronounce that. He was venerated in his Arabian name with a Greek fashion in the reign of an Arabian emperor Philip. Sacrifice. Ooh, hold up. Sacrifices of animals were common, and Prophenius the Abstinonia reports that in Dumat al-Jandal, oh my God, a boy was sacrificed annually and was buried underneath an altar. Now we do know that some Hebrews. You say First Chronicles chapter 5, 10 through. Hold on, let me write that down. Let me get one of my note cards out. Now we do know that some of the Hebrews back in the day were participating in human sacrifice. Let me write that down. I might have to check that out. First chapter 5, 10 through 22. Okay. All right. A boy was sacrificed annually and was buried underneath an altar. Some scholars have extrapolated this practice to the rest of the Nabateans. The Nabateans uh, used to represent their god as featureless pillars or blocks. Now I'm looking at something. I'm looking at a picture with these with the two pillars. Now I believe Chronicles of Judah 144 talks about the two pillars, And in his breakdown about the Avengers Endgame movie, when Thanos went and got the Soul Stone, and he walked through the two pillars. Interesting. Go back down here. Where's that? All right. The most common monuments to the gods, commonly known as god blocks, involve cutting away the whole top of a hill or cliff face so as to leave only a block behind. However, wait a minute, clear this pop up. However, over time, the Nabateans were influenced by Greece and Rome, and their gods became anthropomorphic and were represented with human features. Let me see. Now they're talking about, next they're talking about language. They've already spoken about the language, how they spoke Aramaic. Now all I'm seeing here is, now, okay, the Nabateans spoke in Arabic dialect, but for most, but but for their inscriptions, use a form of Aramaic. How would you know that? But it used a distinctive cursive script from which Arabic alphabet emerged. Hmm, okay. And they're talking about agriculture. I'm not gonna bore you with the agriculture. That's pretty much it right there. Only sections left are agriculture and Nabatean architectures and stonemasons. So yeah, one of Jane Taylor describes them as one of the most gifted peoples of the ancient world. That's what really caught my attention. I would like to know more about these Nabateans and how they got down. If they were allegedly, because it was only about 10,000 of them. You know what I mean? As we read earlier, it was only like 10,000 of them. These motherfuckers was going head up against Egypt, Rome. They was fighting off all kind of motherfuckers. All kind of motherfuckers kept coming for them, and they kept, they kept on pushing, bro. They kept pushing. Uh, you know what? Let me look at some Nabatean alphabet. Um, but they said on Wikipedia that all this shit was identified. I mean, all of their ancient writings were non-existent. Now all of a sudden, you mean to tell me you have Nabatean alphabets? What the fuck? And some of this shit looks like ancient Hebrew. The Aleph, looking at the Aleph, that looks like an N. This just looks like a variant of Hebrew for real. the Nabatean script, a bridge between the Aramaic and the Arabic alphabet. But I'm seeing some ancient Hebrew shit in here, especially with this Alaf and this Halith. Halith. It looks like that pi symbol, and then in the Alaf, which looks like the N. That's what I'm saying. They're trying to say it's Aramaic, but I'm looking at the shit and it looks fucking. I'm looking at this one. Okay, they switched the Alif on this one. Oh, this shit is looking like ancient Hebrew to me. To be honest with you. But hold on, real quick. First Chronicles, chapter 5. I don't know, we'll just read the NIV. It doesn't matter. Chapter 5, verse 10. See, it's on like go on a Bible Gateway. This shit be on the pop-ups. 10 through 22. Let's read. Okay. During Saul's reign, they waged war against the Hagarites, who were defeated at the hands, who were defeated at their hands. They occupied the dwellings of the Hagarites throughout the entire region east of Gilead. The Gadites lived next to them in Bashan, as far as Silaka. Okay. Joel was the chief. Shaphan the second, then Janai and Shaphat in Bashan. Now these names, like, you know, I really can't rock with these names like that. Let me just skip through it until I can see if I can see. Kendra, this not telling me anything though. It's not telling me. I'm not seeing the. I'm not seeing them in here though. But I'm not seeing them in here. I might have to read this again in a different date, different time, different date. Close this out. Oh, come on, G. There we go. But we've been going for about an hour. Hold on, let me see if I can find anything else in these Nebateans. Just me and this bottle of Patron, singing my drunk song. Mm, Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. Mm, it's probably the same shit that was on Wikipedia. Mm, okay, so it's saying here they were later annexed by Roman Emperor Nero. So they was fucking with Emperor Nero. see something. Damn, all these pop-ups quit popping up. All right, the final period of Nabatean history was one of peaceful prosperity as allies of Rome. Hellenistic influences may be traced in the royal coinage and in the rock cut architecture at Petra. When the Roman Emperor Trajan annexed the kingdom in AD 105 to 106 and set up the new province of Arabia, Bostra or Bosra, east of the Jordan River, was chosen in place of Petra as the province capital. That we know that that's the area of Manasseh, east of Jordan. So basically, they got absorbed. Okay, you just throwing out scriptures at this point. But eventually, the Nebateans descended from Nabios, but in the Bible, descendants. That's what they said. That's what I read earlier. I mean, that's what they say. I mean, it sounds good just because the names. But that could be. That could be. That could be a possibility. But they're from the area of Manasseh, though. So they could be others. I don't know. Who knows? It's a mystery. History is a mystery. I like. That's why I like history. I like to piece together shit. I like to piece it together. I like to wrap my mind around it and then try to piece it together. I don't know. Weird like that. I like history. That's why I like reading real shit of shit that really happened or a proximity of some shit that happened because some of this shit is skewed. You know what I mean? Some of this history is skewed, so you got to kind of read in between the lines on some of it. You know what I mean? But I enjoy it though. I don't too much like reading like fake shit or made up shit or science fiction shit. I will, but I like to read real shit that really happened. You know, I don't know. History's always been my favorite subject. But we've been on for almost an hour. I think I'm gonna shut it down. Yeah, I'm gonna shut it down. I might play some FIFA, but I'm not gonna stream because I got my ass kicked earlier today. I got my ass kicked on FIFA, and I'm very upset about that. I'm not happy about that. But all right, y'all. I'll holler at y'all. Don't forget to show some love to the Cash App. Hold on. I'm not gonna look it up now. Well, I'll write that down since you put it up there. Genesis. Tell me to look it up now. I'll look it up when I'm ready to look it up. Yeah, 21, 21, and 25, 13. Oh, I have to. All right. This better be important because I want to shut this down. All right, I'll look it up. You are compelling me. You have piqued my curiosity. Your enthusiasm has definitely piqued my curiosity. 21, verse 21. Let's go. Okay. Oh, while he was living in the desert of Panran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Hmm. Yeah. Now there's other scriptures where brother was talking to his father. I might have to look that up. Okay, here we go. These are the names of the son of Ishmael listed in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, Keter, Adbil, and okay, all right. Hmm. But just because that name is similar to their name doesn't mean that they're the same people, though. You know what I mean? I would have to look into the etymology of the word and see how you can make variations of the word. I don't know. I'm still a tad bit skeptical. I need more evidence. I'm not just gonna buy that they were descendants of Ishmael. I got a sneaky suspicion that they weren't. It's just me. I think they're descendants of the half tribe of Manasseh. That's what I think because they were their you know much of their shit. Their god is from the Levant, from the Holy Land, and they speak about him. What was his name? What was the guy's name? Du Shihara, which translates to Mount Seir, which is in I don't know. It's not the same. It's not the same. No, it's his firstborn son name is spelled Nebaioth. The Nabatean, okay, that's what the Nabatean is spelled. Hold up, Nebateans, and I would have to, that's just the English version of their names being spelled. I mean, shit can get lost in translation. I'm not buying just because one name is spelled Naba, and the other ones, I'm not. I'm still skeptical. I need more evidence. That's all I'm saying. That's all. That's all. That's all. And literally, I'm looking at a map of the Nabatean kingdom, and it is literally in the Levant. It's literally in the Holy Land. Google Google this right now. Go to Wikipedia and look up Nabatean kingdom, and then go to the right portion. Right, go to the right portion of it, and then click on the map, and you'll see where it is. You'll see where it is. They literally were operating in ancient Israel from what third? Hold on. Now they want to spin it and say these motherfuckers were Arabs, but I don't think they were. Okay, historical era, third century BC, and they were conquered by the Roman Empire in 106 AD. No, that's not southern Syria. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now. It's from the Gaza Strip. The most western portion of it is the Gaza Strip, and then it goes east. Look at the map. Look at the map. Now, the most northern portion may go into southern Syria, yes, but look at their map, though. Is what I'm saying. Go to Wikipedia and go and search up Nabatean Kingdom, and then pull up the Nabatean Kingdom map. They did. I seen that. I seen that. They said, no, them niggas didn't get no earthquake. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. I don't believe it. But anyway, I'm about to shut it down. I'm done dealing with you. I'm done dealing with y'all. But don't forget to get my likes up on your way out. It's the peninsula. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Their kingdom was literally in the Holy Land. So I'm like, come on now. uh, let me get up off here, man. I'm about to shut it down. You too, babes. Y'all stay up, man. Hit my likes on the way out. Peace.